When most people think about Colombia, they think about cartels, Pablo Escobar, or the country's decades-long civil conflict. But in 2026, a different story began capturing international attention. Videos emerged showing hundreds of indigenous people charging across hillsides armed with shields, staffs, clubs, machetes, and guns. Some called it a tribal war. Others described it as a modern battle over ancestral land. And at the same time, elsewhere in Colombia, armed groups were launching explosive drones, displacing indigenous communities and fighting for control of remote territories. These events may seem unrelated, but together they reveal a deeper reality. A hidden war over land, identity, power, and survival. This is the story of Colombia's indigenous crisis. And don't forget your boy before this, like this video and subscribe to the channel. And for more deep dives, go check out my whole channel. And on that note, let's go for this one. The Battle of Sylvia. In May 2026, violence erupted near the municipality of Sylvia in the southern department of Cauca. The confrontation involved two indigenous people, the Misak and the Nasa, and both communities claim ancestral rights to the same territory. What began as a land dispute escalated into one of the deadliest indigenous confrontations in recent Colombian history. Authorities reported at least 7 deaths and more than 100 injuries. Many of the injuries were caused by gunfire, and the images shocked viewers around the world. Hundreds of people could be seen advancing across open countryside carrying traditional staff and shields, and to outsiders the footage looked like something from centuries ago. But appearances were deceptive. Those were not isolated tribes. The Misak and the Nasa are modern indigenous nations with schools, elected leadership, community government, smartphones, and political organizations. The conflict wasn't ancient, it was modern, and it centered on a question that has haunted Colombians for generations: who owns actually the land? And that's where you get to the dispute of centuries in the making. The disputed territory covers roughly 800 hectares of agricultural land, and for the Misak, the area represents ancestral territory connected to their identity history, and for the Nasa, it is also part of their historical homeland. The conflict intensified after a controversial ruling by Colombia's National Land Agency, and both communities interpreted historical records and land titles differently, and the negotiations broke down, tensions rose, and then violence exploded. And what makes this tragedy particularly striking is that the Misak and the Nasa have often worked together actually, and for decades they have fought for indigenous rights, environmental protection, and territorial autonomy. Many leaders describe them as a sister people, yet in 2026 competing claims over the same land pushed those relationships to a breakdown. And now let's talk about Cauca, Colombia's most contested region. And to understand why violence actually erupted, we have to understand Cauca. For decades, Cauca has been one of Colombia's most unstable regions. It contains drug trafficking routes, remote mountain terrain, coca growing areas, indigenous territories, and the presence of multiple armed groups. And even after the 2016 peace agreement with the FARC guerrillas, violence never completely disappeared. Instead, dissident factions emerged, and criminal organizations expanded, and competition for territory intensified, and the Misak-Nasa conflict unfolded within the border landscape of instability. And that's where you get to the drone war. And while indigenous communities fought over land in Cauca, another transformation was taking place across Colombia as well. Armed groups were rapidly adopting drone warfare. According to Colombia's Ministry of Defense, successful drone attacks increased dramatically between 2024 and 2025. Groups began using drone for surveillance, reconnaissance, and direct attacks. Some drones carried explosives, others dropped grenades. Newer models included FPV drones, which operators can fly directly into targets. is. And even more concerning are fiber optic drones. Unlike traditional drones, they cannot easily be disrupted by radio jamming systems. The security experts say many of these tactics mirror lessons learned from the war in Ukraine, and what was once cutting-edge military technology is now appearing in remote regions in Colombia, and civilians are increasingly paying the price. And also, don't forget about the Sierra Nevada, the other front, Hundreds of miles from Coca lies another crisis. The Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, known by indigenous people as the heart of the world. This sacred mountain range is home to the Arhuacu, Kogi, Wiwa, and Kankuamu peoples. But in 2026, violence between armed organizations intensified in the region. Human rights organizations reported killings, injuries, displacement, and confinement of indigenous communities, and more than 400 families were displaced. Over 2,000 indigenous people became trapped within their territories, and reports indicated that drones and explosive devices were being used during the fighting. And for many residents, the threat isn't just violence, it's uncertainty, and every drone overhead could be conducting surveillance or carrying explosive. No one knows, and that uncertainty creates fear long after the gunfire stops. And now you get to the humanitarian crisis, because human rights organizations warn that many indigenous communities face more than immediate physical danger. They face cultural survival, and when indigenous communities displaced, they lose access to sacred sites, traditional farming areas, rivers, ceremonial locations, and connections to even ancestral lands. And for many communities, territory is not simply property, it is identity, it is history, and it is spirituality even. And that's why international organizations have warned about the risk of both physical and cultural extinction. Now, the future of Colombia's indigenous territories, the events of 2026 reveal a country at a crossroad. Indigenous communities are struggling to defend ancestral territories, and armed groups are adopting increasingly sophisticated technologies. Drone warfare is spreading, and long-standing land disputes remain unresolved. The violence in Sevilla, the drone attacks in Coca, and the humanitarian crisis in the Sierra Nevada, these are not isolated stories. They are different chapters of a large conflict over who controls Colombia's most contested lands, basically. And the outcome will shape not only the future of the indigenous communities, but also the future of Colombia itself. And the images that went viral showed a battle, but the real story is much bigger. It is a story about history, territory, technology, and survival. And for many communities around Colombia, that story is still unfolding. And if you found this video informative, subscribe for more deep dives just like this into global conflicts and all of that, indigenous rights, and then also the hidden stories shaping our world. Don't forget your boy, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.